What's up, everybody? On today's video, I'm going to teach you how you can make thousands of dollars after a hurricane with junk removal. I'm going to tell you the pros, cons, and information that you need to know so you can make a killing after a hurricane with a junk removal company. The first thing you need to know is that you need to get a junk removal license from one of the local counties. And you want to make sure that you're working as close to a landfill as possible. You're going to focus on a specific area. An area that is as reasonably close to a landfill as is humanly possible. Surprisingly, the epicenter of a hurricane isn't the easiest place to make money because when a property is completely destroyed, the process which the property owner has to go through to clean up that property is a different route. So if you're a startup company, you may actually want to look for individual customers or companies or HOAs that are a little bit smaller and don't have access to city garbage removal services. For example, in Southwest Florida, a lot of businesses, the city's not going to pick up the garbage because the people who obtain those services are residential homeowners. The same thing can be said for small condominiums and even gated communities because these are commercial properties, even though they're used for a residential purpose, which means that the city doesn't have a contract through the taxes to pick up their garbage. So if you can find a small gated community of about 100 people, that is a great place to start looking for customers. These small condominiums and other small associations are the perfect place because they're not going to have a big corporation with all types of yellow tapes and plans in place to take care of the garbage through larger contracts. I'm not going to tell you that I haven't worked for large condominiums and large HOAs because I have over the years. But usually it takes somebody bending the rules somewhere because these larger complexes are going to have insurance minimum requirements, which you may not have if you're a small junk removal business. And many times, to be honest, it's not worth getting these insurances because of the cost and because of the bureaucracy and yellow tape that you're going to get from the person signing this check. They're going to almost make you an employee, and that's really not what you want. You just want to go out there and make money back to back from different customers, not to kind of be tied in with somebody who's almost trying to make you have insurance and a bunch of other requirements. One tactic that I find killer is to start working in a community for a customer and giving them a great price. We're talking a gated community. So you work your way into a gated community. You may ask yourself, how do I do that? Well, you can just hang out by the entrance of the community in the morning or at a coffee shop near a gated community. Talk to people and let them know you're doing junk removal and somebody will need your services. As soon as you enter that gated community, you need to immediately ask the homeowner if you can meet the person in charge of the HOA. If you can do something for that person, like hauling away a little bit of debris or cutting a tree for them or any small favor, even if it's a medium-sized favor to get that person on board, that's the person that has everybody's phone number, knows who's in town, knows who's out of town, and he's also needing to clean up the community. So if you can get on that person's good side, he needs that community cleaned up, and you're a junk removal person. So if you can get on that person's good side, he's going to give you work back to back in exchange for you helping him with a few favors once in a while. At the end of the day, it's his job to ensure that the community gets cleaned up, and what a better place to start than his own property. If you can become the go-to guy for somebody who's in charge of an HOA that needs to get cleaned up in the entire community, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a lot of work within a gated community where they may actually even give you a heads up if the county comes in or if there's anything going on in your environment. I mean, they're going to keep you as a golden product because you're helping them accomplish something that they really need. Many times these HOA people already know the code enforcement people or the county inspector, whoever's coming into that community to work, and they're going to let them know, hey, this person's working with us, he's good to go. Once you get into a gated community, not an open neighborhood where there's people coming in and out. Once it's a gated community and everybody in that community kind of understands that you're in there helping, the customers will not stop coming. They will notice you, everybody's in the loop, and the money will start to come in. How much you charge is an interesting question. Now, we all know that price gouging is wrong, but you need to understand that it's not you, the person providing the service, who encourages price gouging. It's going to be individuals who are going to offer you ridiculous amounts of money to do something that honestly you really don't want to do, but they're going to follow you. They're almost going to force you to take the money and do the job. Now, these customers are never going to be return or repeat customers. You're working for them one time, and I've worked during Hurricane Irma, and I can tell you that a lot of the people that I worked for during that time period never called me again. This isn't like a person who got new furniture and they're excited about getting rid of their old furniture. This is somebody who had no plans on having to spend this money, and now they're having to spend it. They don't want to do it, they have to do it, so usually the customer's not happy either way. It's really uncomfortable for me to blame the company for price gouging when clearly it's the customers who are encouraging, and they're the ones that are setting the prices. I remember I was in a gated community at 9:30 at night. I was already tired. I had had a long day, and me and my friend were working together, and a guy comes up and says, "Hey, I'll give you $500 if you cut up my pool screen and haul it away tonight." And I told the guy, "Hey, look, bro, we've worked all day. We're tired. We've been up since 7 in the morning." And the guy goes, "I'll give you $900. This job could have been done within about less than 2 hours, and we actually took the job. Again, it's not like we wanted to make $900 in 2 hours. We had already worked all day. We were tired. We really didn't want to do it. But the amount of money that this guy was offering, you almost had to take it. You're also going to be working 12 to 14, on some cases even 16-hour days. So I don't think you're going to go out there and make $2,000 or $3,000 in a few hours unless you have a skid steer or a mini skid steer. If you're working with a truck and trailer setup, you're not going to make that kind of money unless you're really willing to work hard for it. If you can get a dump trailer with a mini skid steer, you can start talking about upwards of $6,000 a day, and many times you're not going to have to haul the garbage away. All you have to do is put it out by the curb, and the city will do that. And if you can find a location where, due to the laws and the landfills in the city, you're able to just charge people for putting stuff out by the road, you don't have to take the time of going to a landfill, which could be very time consuming, especially after a hurricane. The other method is to bypass going to a landfill and having a temporary dump site, either for your scrap metal or your garbage, and then you could subcontract somebody else out to haul it away for you at a different time further ahead when there isn't a rush to get in the landfills, because time is of the essence. There's going to be a 3 to 6 month window when all the money is going to be made. After 9 months, a year, another month or two isn't going to make a difference. So people really aren't going to be encouraged to pay extra money. At that point, they're going to start shopping around. So people that want to get something done right away, that are going to pay whatever the crap it takes to have that stuff hauled away. So if you're spending your time making landfill runs, you're not going to have a lot of time to take care of your customers. So one thing you could do is take the day of the week where you're not allowed to go to the landfill because it's closed, and use that as a packing or loading day, and every single day in the morning going straight to the landfill first and then going out to your customer's house. In other words, at the end of the night, leave one trailer load ready to go to the landfill and be early at the landfill to unload that. That way, you start the day off by going to the landfill and not by going directly to the customer's house. Because if you do that, you're going to be saving a lot of time. And again, this money has to be made in a very relatively short amount of time. So you want to minimize landfill trips. Or really, if you can just get a station where you can drop off things and stage from there, Like, for example, aluminum and metal, you can sit on that stuff for months until after the hurricane passes and there's less volume of those metals available to sell them. That is a great method. The first thing you need to do is ensure that the licenses you have are for the work you are doing. So you may have to find the perfect community to work in. You may find that one county will not let you work with the licenses you can get. Once you find a county that allows you to work with the license you have, or a city that will issue you a temporary permit to work there, so you're going to have to take maybe a day just to understand where you can work with what license and where you can get those licenses, what landfills are going to be usable, what scrapyards are going to be useful, which landscaping companies will take landscaping debris. In other words, if you're looking for landscaping debris, you may find that instead of going to a landfill, you can find a landscaping company that will take it, and perhaps their price is twice or three times higher than the landfill price. But they're closer to the job site and there's no lines or waits. So one of the methods that I used during the hurricane is I bypassed using landfills and I went to companies that were charging me much more money to get rid of landscaping debris or my junk. But even though they were more expensive, they were closer and I didn't have to wait in lines at a landfill. So you really have to find a way to bypass being 6 hours a day in lines waiting to unload your stuff, either by staging your stuff in a property or by using companies that are more expensive but closer and faster to your job sites. Once you understand the logistics of which method is going to save you the most time, you can focus on a category. For example, after Hurricane Irma, I focused on landscaping debris because the lines at the landfills were very long, but I was able to find a place to get rid of the landscaping debris that didn't require the lines. Even though the prices were kind of ridiculous, it was saving me so much time that it was worth paying it. The method that I found was to stage my aluminum on my property, which was 4 to 6 miles from the job sites, and to take the landscaping debris to that company, which was about 9 miles away, and there was usually never a line because they were charging me $127 for something that should have been about $30. And that's another layer of price gouging, is that now you, the person getting rid of the debris, you're being price gouged, so you have to transfer that price gouging into your customer. So it's indirect price gouging for convenience of saving time. And that's why I don't really criticize people who go out there and make thousands of dollars a day, because it's really not their fault that that's what things cost. It's kind of a chain of events that leads to that being expensive, not because you're price gouging on purpose, but because on the other end, you're the one that's being price gouged as well. So let's talk a little bit about the methods and the price. For a 12-yard trailer, I was charging $400 if it was landscaping debris. That means that at the end of the day, after making 3 runs, I would be about $600 out the door, but I was making about $1,200. Somehow you would always pick up a smaller job that you could fit into those other loads on top. So let's make it about $800. Now we would then go and do 3 runs of aluminum that were being staged on my property to be sold later. Now I noticed that aluminum was still at $45 per 100, so I took 6 days to sell all the aluminum I had, and I put all my jobs on hold. Luckily, like 2 days after I sold my aluminum, the price went down to $15 per 100. So you also have to know what things are going to cost and when they're going to cost that. When all the big companies were focusing on the big jobs, I was going after the aluminum, which really didn't make a lot of sense at that time. So you have to be able to distinguish between what jobs people are fighting for and what jobs are really being overlooked. and why those jobs are being overlooked. Is it the price? Is it the time involved in getting rid of those items? Another pretty awesome gig is cutting down aluminum pool screens. So if a pool screen gets damaged, most likely they're just going to get rid of the entire pool screen. So you're going to have a little bit of like the screen, and then the rest is going to be aluminum. That aluminum can be worth a lot of money as well, depending on the prices. So you're not only making money from the aluminum, which sometimes could be up to $600 per job, but you're also making a lot of money from charging the person to do it. Now I'm going to give you a warning. I fell off a ladder after Hurricane Irma and fractured an arm doing pool screen removals. Don't get too excited about making money and then disregard your safety. A lot of these jobs are really worth passing up on. Sometimes opportunity is actually not an opportunity. In other words, not every opportunity is really an opportunity, and knowing when to say no can be more profitable than taking a job that can get you hurt, or that is too time consuming, or that has too many variables that you're not familiar with. So I mostly stuck to the easy stuff like landscaping debris. Fence removal is another great little gig. Fence removal, you charge by the panel. So if there's 40 panels, it's $800. You take it to landfill, they charge you $150. You made 600 something. That is a great little gig. Most of the time, they're already on the floor, and you can devise a method. Now, I was charging $40 a panel, but that was 5 years ago. With today's prices of fuel and other things, even landfill fees are more expensive now. You may have to bump it up to $60, $65, $70 a panel, and make sure that you're making a good profit, because things are worth more money. It's insane how everything is getting more expensive, from landfill fees, fuel costs. Everything is more expensive. So if your price is $75 a panel, you count the panels, you tell your customer, hey, this is going to be $1,200. You either take it or you don't. Let me know if you want to do it right now or not. Don't play around too much with prices. That's what it costs. If the person doesn't want to pay it, then they can find somebody else. And today, with the cost of gas and landfill fees being almost double what they were back then, I guess a $400 job back then could be a $650 or $700 job today. If the person wants to pay it, they can pay it. And if they don't, then they can find somebody else. Don't start to feel too miserable or too sorry for people, because at the end of the day, you're not making all this money for free. After you work for a month or two, 14, 16, 12-hour days, you might need a chiropractor. You might fall off a ladder like I did, and now you have thousands of dollars in medical bills that those jobs that you were helping those people out aren't going to compensate for. So don't be afraid to charge things for what they're really worth. And if somebody has a problem with quote unquote price gouging, then maybe junk removal after a hurricane isn't the line of work you need to be in. Because at the end of the day, when you pop a tire, when your trailer flips over, when you fall off a ladder, those jobs that you were doing for sheep aren't going to pay for that. You're not even drinking a $3 box of water. You're drinking electrolyte water with powders that have even more electrolytes in them. So even the food you eat, the water you drink is more expensive, because, again, everything has to be the best. You're not just going to go there and drink some cheap water. You're going to have to drink electrolyte water. You're working 14, 15-hour days, so regular water isn't going to do it. You're going to have to step it up to electrolyte water. So everything's more expensive on your end. If you have a problem with quote-unquote price gouging people, then go work for somebody else for $10 an hour and let the boss be the one to make all that profit. At the end of the day, this is Southwest Florida. You are working for millionaires. These people are absolutely ruthless, and they will exploit you down to the last bit they can get out of you. There's no shame in their game. So if you're going to walk into Southwest Florida to do hurricane cleanup and you have values and morals, you're going to be somebody's toilet paper. I love to see comments that I'm getting every single day now, like, oh, you're going to these hurricane sites and you're profiting off of these people's situation. Y'all ought to be ashamed of themselves. Do you think that these people that got $3 million beachside houses haven't screwed hundreds of people over decades and years, systematically exploited society so they can live the way they live today? Hashtag Florida strong. No, hashtag Florida weak. Weak infrastructure, weak laws regarding labor, weak pay, hashtag Florida weak. All right, children, so let's summarize what we learned. You're going to have to probably get into a small condominium or a small HOA that doesn't have all that yellow tape around them. If you're going to work for individual people, you can look for pool screen jobs, you can look for fence panel jobs, or you can look for landfill runs or landscaping debris. But before you start to target a specific field of junk, you're going to first determine the logistics of where it's going to go and how much time it's going to consume to know which option is best for you to target. All that after you've got the proper licensing for the place you're going to be working in. And when you go to give your customer a quote, remember that you're not going to go with the cheapest landscaping company or the cheapest landfill. You're going to go with the most practical one. And remember to include things like chiropractor and medical bills and flat tires and broken axles in your quote. So if you're ready to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair, junk removal services after a hurricane could be the thing for you.